I guess my motorcycle obsession started when I stopped drinking. I needed something as a creative outlet, but I also needed something exciting to do. And having been a mechanic, I would purchase old motorcycles and fix them up. Sometimes I'd keep them, sometimes I'd sell them. Then I got bitten by the Excelsior Henderson bug. I was looking to buy a Harley Davidson, but I decided I wanted something unique, something different. The Excelsior Henderson was only produced for a couple of years, and it wasn't a Harley. It was a big American bike that was unique, that was different. And it was the name was based on a legendary bike that went out of business back in the 30s. Dan Hanlon out of Minnesota used the styling cues to bring about a new bike, and by 98 he had functioning prototypes, and by 99 he actually went into production. But unfortunately by 2000 they went bankrupt. So I managed to purchase number 741 here, Excelsior Henderson Super X, and it was my daily rider from 2010 on. But because it was a bike that took a while to get the parts, they are available, but sometimes it takes a while to get them, I decided I needed a second bike in case something broke down. So I bought number 901 in Nebraska, where I rode it from Nebraska with some friends up to Minnesota and met up with a lot of the Super X owners in Minnesota where the bikes are produced. Some of the finest people I've ever met have been on motorcycles, and these guys are all just fantastic guys. I'd take my Excelsior Hendersons to bike shows and toy runs and stuff, and they always drew a lot of attention. Then I got bit by the Victory bug. The Victories, once again, because the earlier bikes were available pretty cheap, I'd buy them broken and fix them up, and I learned how to work on them as well. These are just several of the bikes I bought in poor or broken condition and put back on the road. They usually look something like this when I first got them, and I'd haul them home in crates and bits and pieces, and then they'd end up looking something like this one. This particular one's got a 100 cubic inch 2006 engine in it. I also worked on any other bikes I get cheap, like Yamahas, regardless of whether they're on-road or off-road. I would buy Suzuki's in baskets cheap and put them back on the road, as well as Kawasaki's. But my love always seemed to be more for the large American bikes like the Victories. And I liked the Victories because a lot of people didn't know how to work on them, and the early ones had problems, so I could usually get them pretty cheap, and I knew how to upgrade the transmissions and make them very, very reliable. That was kind of the fallback. The first 1,500 bikes were numbered bikes. Like this one here is number 1103, and I believe that these bikes will be collector's bikes one day. The early bikes had some styling cues that you had to look for. For example, they put the Victory logo on one of the spokes of the wheels. They didn't do that in the production bikes after the first 1,500. So again, I think it'll keep the value. Also, the Made in America or Made in USA logo was in several places on the valve cover on the numbered bikes, but they were kind of hard to see, so they did away with that in later production. As you can tell, they're not real easy to spot. I think the bike, though, that was the most underrated was the following year in 2000, Victory came out with the Sport Cruiser, or V92 SC. SC for Sport Cruiser. They put different wheels and tires on them, and they put mid-controls on them, so you sat in a more upright position like a sport bike. They also did other things like increase the engine horsepower and put a heavier duty front end on it. These went from a 45 millimeter on the regular bikes to 50 millimeter fork tubes on the Sport Cruiser, as well as dual disc brakes instead of single disc brakes. I had 3 of them at one time. As you can see here, I now only have the one black one. Then I was fortunate enough to find a Victory Cross Country that had been wrecked. In 2015, I bought a 2015 model year bike with only 3,000 miles on it for $3,600. But as you can see, it needed pretty much everything. The frame was good, the engine was good, and that's a canvas I can work from. So I went about rounding up the various parts on eBay and so forth and other sellers and put it back on the road. This is my most ridden bike. This is the one I take the long hauls on because, well, it's got the creature comforts. It's got the cruise control, it's got the stereo, it's got extremely comfortable seats and so forth. This is a bike I can ride all day and not be fatigued on. And as you can see, it turned out pretty darn good. Most of my bikes have personalized plates, kind of reflecting what they are. 106 cubic inch. This is my V92 Sport Cruiser, 99 V92C on one of the numbered bikes. And my other blue numbered bike also says 99 V92. And of course, no collection would be complete without all the signs and banners and so forth. So as the Victory dealers were closing down, I managed to get a hold of a couple of Victory signs. I've got a ton of spare Victory parts that I grabbed up as I could, but they're getting harder and harder to find. If you can find them on eBay, even the prices are going up. And if you guys remember Gunny, actor Lee Ermey, he was the spokesperson for Victory for a number of years, and he recently passed on. But he did a lot of advertising for Victory. And as you can see, plenty of odds and ends Victory parts and pieces I've managed to acquire over the years. Anything that said Victory on it, I had to have. Anything that said Excelsior Henderson on it, I had to have. There was even books written, and of course I've got the books and the magazines and so forth. This is the book that Dan Hanlon wrote from his point of view of resurrecting the brand, designing the bike, and then there was, Victory had a children's book even about an assembly plant. Later on, other books were written by other authors about Victory. I always try to get magazine articles I think are interesting, and a lot of times I would frame pictures from the different magazines. And if I could find banners, I'd pick them up as well. So there's still stuff out there. There's still tin signs available. You can get those on eBay as well. Metal signs, they last a long time. And then I have a large sign that I use just to collect the small tidbits, the odds and ends, the memorabilia and knickknacks and so forth. As you can see here, there's a few magazine articles I thought were interesting that I framed and hung on the wall. And then there they are, the original Victories, the V92Cs. Here are some of the many different things I have. Maisto built some Victory models for a short while. There's a Jackpot. They're kind of hard to find now. There's a pewter one that Victory had released themselves. It was limited edition for Victory owners, commemorating their very first production street bike. And then they also came out later on with a plastic version of that same V92C. And then here's another Maisto on the end. That one I believe is a Vegas. I don't know if they made other ones. I've got the Jackpot and the Vegas. There may be more, but those are the only ones I've been able to find. And then they had a couple of banks out there. I know they had a Ford truck, and they also had another car. I don't remember which one that was. And then kickstand support. That's a USB port. Coaster set. Various pins and other small paraphernalia. I got a lot more pins than that on my vest. This one's interesting. This was actually a piston that commemorated the release of the newly upgraded engine in late 2001 for the 2000 model year. They called it the Freedom, the Victory Freedom engine, which is pretty much a bulletproof engine. Again, as you can see, if it said Victory on it, it had to be in my collection. I tell you, it's an obsession. Here we have various magazine articles for both Victory and Excelsior Henderson. And yes, that bag is all Excelsior Henderson t-shirts. That doesn't count the ones in my closet or the jackets or anything else. Just lots of stuff still out there in the form of magazines and so forth. I'm going to continue to do it. It's a good creative outlet, fixing and modifying the bikes. I'm going to try and post some more videos as I learn how to manipulate the software and the cameras, as I rebuild and restore these bikes. And of course, I'll post them out there for you guys to see. So thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing my obsession. We'll see you out there on the road.